Today's reading is from Rays of the One Light, weekly commentary on the Bible in the Bhagavad Gita by J. Donald Walters. This week's reading is The Redeeming Light. Truth is one and eternal. Realize oneness with it in your deathless self within. Following commentary is based on the teachings of Paramahansa Yogananda. The book of Isaiah in the Bible, chapter 9, tells us, "The people that walked in darkness have seen a great light. They that dwell in the land of the shadow of death, upon them hath the light shined." What is this light of which so many scriptures speak? In Autobiography of a Yogi by Paramahansa Yogananda, we read of an early experience the Master had with that light. "I was blessed about the age of 8 with a wonderful healing through the photograph of Lahiri Mahashaya. This experience gave an intensification to my divine love. While at our family estate in Ikapur, Bengal, I was stricken with Asiatic cholera. My life was despaired of. The doctors could do nothing. At my bedside, Mother frantically motioned me to look at Lahiri Mahashaya's picture on the wall above my head. Bow to him mentally. She knew I was too feeble even to lift my hands in salutation. If you really show your devotion and inwardly kneel before him, your life will be spared." I gazed at his photograph and saw there a blinding light enveloping my body in the entire room. My nausea and other uncontrollable symptoms disappeared. I was well. At once I felt strong enough to bend over and touch my mother's feet in appreciation of her immeasurable faith in her Guru. Mother pressed her head repeatedly against the little picture. "O omnipresent Master, I thank thee that thy light hath healed my son." I realized that she, too, had witnessed the luminous blaze through which I had instantly recovered from an usually fatal disease. "Where my light is," God once told a saint whom the divine light had healed, "no darkness can dwell." The divine light, pure, calm, liberating, is the only final cure for every kind of delusion, ill health, emotional grief, spiritual ignorance. Seek it daily in silence, in deep meditation. As the Bhagavad Gita says in the 5th chapter, "For whom that darkness of the soul is chased by light, splendid and clear shines manifest the truth, as if a sun of wisdom sprang to shed its beams of light." Thus, through Holy Scripture, God has spoken to mankind.
Good morning. There's a very politically incorrect movie that Swami Kriyananda loved, and I love it too. Can you remember? It's the one with it's an all-black cast made in the early 30s.
Green Pastures.
Green Pastures. And when I got this topic, I thought, because the Lord in there says, "Has you been redeemed?" And the whole chorus goes, "Certainly, Lord." Oh, well, kind of had to be there. So we're going to talk today about light as it comes to us as just normal human beings. But I'd like to share a story, too, from the Autobiography of a Yogi, which is one of my favorite stories in the whole book. It's toward the end, and so that's from there. And then I'm going to tell you a little bit about some of the things that a Frenchman said about light in his life, a man who was blind. So there's probably some other things we're going to pop into, but we'll see. So first, the Divine Mother. Om Prakash and I have been having a wonderful time reading about all the visions and appearances that have happened. I mean, it's just amazing when you start researching how Divine Mother has come in this century. And, you know, lots of times people think that miracles only happened in the Bible, but miracles are happening all around us all the time, especially when people have pure hearts and draw them to them. And the Divine Mother has appeared to people in so many countries that you wouldn't, Thailand, Vietnam. I just found out yesterday that there's a whole shrine to her on the little tiny island of Guam where I was born. And there were miracle things that happened there around her as well. Of course, France and Italy and places in Europe that we've heard about. Africa, America, everywhere she comes because Divine Mother is made of light. She is the cosmic. In yogic teaching, she's the causation of the energy of God coming into this world. And she loves us. And so when we are in need, she comes. And one of my favorite saints that had Divine Mother appear to her many times was Saint Bernadette in France. And she was a very young woman and must have been very pure at heart and probably a very old soul to have these events happen for her. But she professed to not know very much about the Catholic doctrine. She was supposed to be taking her first communion, and she didn't even know what the Holy Trinity was. But Divine Mother came to her one day in this little niche where now there's this huge cathedral and everything built up. But the thing I'm thinking about to tell you about her was, you know, she had purity of heart, and she was out trying to gather wood with her sister and a friend for their family who was poor and it was cold. And she was walking and she had to come to a place where the other two people weren't. And she started hearing this wind. And it's very interesting that she would hear wind first because Om in the yogic teachings is sound as well as light. And often before a sacred event happens, people will hear Om in some form. So she hears this wind. And then she sees this flash of light in the little niche there. And as she looks in the light, this beautiful young woman appears. She doesn't even know that it's Divine Mother. She doesn't call her Mary or anything. She just says a beautiful, lovely young woman appeared, dressed in white with a blue sash and yellow roses on her feet. And this light's all around her, and she's just looking at this light. She's so startled, she doesn't know what to do. But the lady smiles at her very lovingly. And then she nods at her. And so she takes up her rosary and starts praying the rosary. And the lady has a rosary too, and she starts praying as well. And then they share this loving energy. She has 19 of these experiences with her on different days. But in this particular one, especially the light, was very, very strong for her. And then in a flash of light, the lady goes away. And she doesn't know at that time if she will reappear or not. But it's just a beautiful way that Divine Mother just filled her consciousness with this light, and it changed her life. And she goes on to become a nun later on. But one of the miracles that happened, of course, was the lady told her in another apparition, I think it was like the 9th time that she appeared to her, to go to this specific place to drink of the water and eat of the herbs. And she didn't know what she was supposed to do because there was no water where she was. But then she thought, well, Divine Mother knows what she's thinking. She didn't say Divine Mother. She said the lady knows what she's thinking, I'm supposed to do. So she went and she used her common sense. Woohoo! The light's coming. I hope I'm not telling the story wrong. Anyway, she digs there, and there's no water coming out at first. It's just kind of mud, but she tries to drink it anyway because Divine Mother told her to drink. And then she eats the grass, and this makes everybody that's all around her just laugh and make fun of her and everything. But she did it, and by the next morning, this beautiful spring had come, and of course, this ends up to be the spring at Lourdes that many, many people today, even in the present time, are receiving healings from God, from Divine Mother. So that's one beautiful example. You know, her body is incorrupt that, after all these hundreds of years. It's just there. You can go to the chapel in a place called, it's spelled Nevers, but it's pronounced Neve, I think. It's in France. And there's also, one of the things that interested me was that there's a little chapel there and the grounds, and there's another statue. There's a statue of Divine Mother at Lourdes, but Bernadette, frankly, never liked it that much. She just said, once you've seen the lady, no statue can really capture her beauty. But then at this place where she spent the last part of her life, in the little Lady of the Waters, it's called, there's a statue that you can Google, because I did it yesterday. And this is the one that she used to go and personally pray to. And she just felt like it was the closest, that it looked like the closest to the lady that appeared to her. And it's a very beautiful statue. And we have at our community several different statues of Divine Mother around. And it's always a wonderful way to think of God, because as Yogananda said, the mother is closer than the father because she doesn't judge. She always loves you. So you can always go to her. And so it's a wonderful blessing to have those statues. Bruce and Becca brought one back from their honeymoon that they placed just a few weeks ago at the exit as we're going out. She's kind of in the ferns there on a pedestal. And you can wave at her and say, hi, I'm being good. Even as she sends thunder to you. And then a wonderful story. There's a book called And There Was Light. It was written a while ago. They've often had it at East West. This man, Jacques Lussier, and I'm sure I'm pronouncing his name incorrectly, he was blinded when he was very young. But before he was blind, he always had a relationship with light. He said he was always fascinated with it. Some of these things come out in his book. And he felt this flow of energy from light, and he was very artistic and very sensitive soul. When he was blinded, though, he said first he was just really amazed because he discovered that if he focused his awareness where his normal eyes had been, and with the energy flowing outward, he would get all upset and not be able to see anything, and he would be felt unempowered. But he learned how to bring his awareness deeper inside of himself. And he said, the light is within us and within everyone. He said, I could perceive the light when I went inside myself and pierced through the light itself. And of course, that's a pretty good description of the spiritual eye that the yogis think of. And do I still have it on? Yeah, here it is. And he said, once I got in tune with this light, being blind became a joyous adventure for me, because along with the light that came into my consciousness came joy. He said light and joy came together. And I enjoyed learning how I was going to be able to function in this world with this wonderful feeling of being with the light and that light guiding me. He has deep experiences of God, and he went through he was a part of the French resistance and the underground. Because he couldn't see, and he learned how to intuit more, and he learned to follow this inner light guidance, he was very, very good at knowing what a person was like. He could tell a lot about a person by their voice. He could tell a lot by how they appeared to him and what form of light. And interestingly enough, he said, that light was with me through everything. And he said, you'd think it would be more important to have the light with you when you were in trouble. But he said it was also hard to be calm enough to have that light be with him when things were going really well. And that's something that devotees know too. I mean, to keep our minds calm enough so that we can see that inner light or feel that inner light in whatever way we do, the presence of God, we have to put out energy. And he knew he had to keep himself uplifted. He said the times when I couldn't see the light was when I was angry, when I was fearful, when I was judgmental. And he said any of those negative states, I would be like in a fog then, and I couldn't make my way. So it's very, very interesting. It's just very wonderful to have the yogic teachings validated in that way. He also said it sustained him. And he said the light will sustain you as well because it comes with joy and it's within us. He says the two things of his life were joy is not outside you, it's within. Does that sound familiar? Hadananda, joy is within you is one of our sayings. And then he said, the light is within you and always will be within you. And you can follow that light. So those two things were his thing that got him through life. He actually was in a concentration camp for like 16 months. He was one of 30 people who had been sent to this concentration camp among the 2,000 that survived. And he just went, he said he felt that presence within him, and it sustained him through that whole time. So that was a beautiful story of the light. And of course, I have to share this one from Autobiography of a Yogi. It's the one, it's called The Silver Cup. Mr. Dickinson is a disciple of Paramahansa Yogananda, living with him and learning from him at Mount Washington in California. Yogananda has been away in India and traveling in India and in Europe. And all the time that he was away on this trip, which I think was 2 years long, he was collecting gifts for his different disciples and different people as Divine Mother would inspire him to do. And he had seen the silver cup in the marketplace, and he looked at it and he said, oh, Mr. Dickinson would like this. And then he brings it home. And when he gets, it's Christmas Eve, and Yogananda had a beautiful celebration of Christmas that he helped his people with. They always had their spiritual Christmas, which was an 8-hour-long meditation where they would try to draw Christ's presence to them and be a part of feeling that spiritual upliftment that comes during that time of Jesus' birth. But then at the social Christmas, he called it, he would love to give out gifts to everyone. And when he gave this gift to Mr. Dickinson was speechless. He couldn't say anything. And he just was like stunned that this silver cup had come to him. And then he tells the story of why. He said he'd been waiting for it for 43 years to come to him. When he was a boy of 5 years old, he and his brothers were playing in some water. And one of his brothers thought it was funny to throw him in the deep part of the water. And he said he was drowning. He couldn't get up out of the water. And he said just as he was starting to feel like he was going to lose his life, he saw this beautiful flash of light. And in the light was this face of this very calm man with beautiful eyes and a smile. And then as the third time he comes up, one of his brothers was able then to rescue him. So that was the first time he had an experience of the light. And then about 12 years later, he was walking in Chicago with his mother. And it was 1893, the Chicago World Fair was there. And as he's walking along, he sees this flash of light again. And then he sees in body the man who had appeared to him when he was just about drowning. And he says to his mother, Mother, that's the man who came in my vision when I was starting to drown. And so they follow him. And it's Vivekananda, who was a very advanced disciple of Ramakrishna and was here in America. And he was speaking at that World's Fair. And he said he waited for him. And he said, I was so young, he would have been 17. And he said, I just loved him, and I just thought, he said internally, I hope he will be my teacher. And so he gets to meet Vivekananda after Vivekananda has spoken. And Vivekananda looks at him and says, I'm not your guru. Your teacher will come to you later, and he'll give you a silver cup. And then he pauses for a minute, and then he says, he's going to give you so much that your joy will be boundless. The things that he will give you will be overflowing. And so he had this in his heart. He thought, okay, Vivekananda's not my guru, but this bodes well for me, what he said. So he waits and he waits and he waits, and years go by. Finally, 1925, he's in Los Angeles, and he says, I decided I was going to pray. And he prays very fervently to God, please bring me my guru. The next day, he goes and he sees the flash of light. No, he didn't see the flash of light. He goes to a lecture that Paramahansa Yogananda is giving. And when he sees Yogananda, he realizes Yogananda is his guru. And he goes to him and he starts teaching. And he said, I thought I would be all right without the silver cup that Vivekananda had predicted that my guru would give to me. And I thought, well, maybe it's just metaphorical, so I'll just let it go. Because he was definitely making spiritual progress. He'd learned Kriya Yoga. He was advancing. He knew he was. But he says to Master, the reason I couldn't speak when you gave me the silver cup was, first of all, it was a silver cup. And he said, again, just before you gave it to me, I saw that flash of light. So that was the third time he saw the flash of light, and then the cup was there. And he said, I didn't have to have the cup to know that you were my guru, but it was so beautiful to have that little closure and to realize that Divine Mother had spoken truly through Vivekananda. So I love that story because I'm a believer in having patience and waiting, but it's sure nice to have it fulfilled. And it's also a wonderful thing to think that sometimes the goodness that's supposed to come to us takes time. And that patience and perseverance, and of course non-attachment, which is one of the things that our service is about today too, to be non-attached, even though you might have a desire or something that you constantly are putting before God, to realize that it's going to come to you or maybe not come to you in God's own time, and to be okay with that. Many saints are that way. Bernadette was that way. Almost every saint that you read about, Swami Kriyananda taught all of us that one of the things to do on the spiritual path, especially in times of trouble, is just put one foot in front of the other. If you're not hearing God's voice, if you're not seeing visions of God, use your common sense. Keep walking in the direction that your common sense tells you is the light. And when the light is supposed to appear to you, it will. But there are things that we can do to bring that light to us very strongly. And of course, one of the most effective is to learn how to meditate. And from the first, when people close their eyes and lift their eyes just a little bit and find this place in their forehead, it's there for every person. If you're in a body that's a human body, you have that ability to see that spiritual light at some point. But your mind has to be calm, your heart has to be calm, and you have to train yourself how to do that. If you're playing the violin, you can't expect to play a concerto the first time you pick the violin up. And it's the same with meditation. It might take years, and that light will come to you if that's one of the gifts that God is meant to give to you. But there are things that you can do to feed that light. Coming and being with others who are looking for the light and are in the light to some degree is very magnetic and helps us all. I know last night we had a kirtan here, and I had been trying to prepare for service all day, and no ideas were coming. I was kind of, I won't say in a mood, but I wasn't very happy. I guess I was in a mood. Anyway, I was awfully glad that I was needed at the kirtan, because once I came to the kirtan and started singing to God again and got that love and devotion awakened, it was just like everything started flowing in. It changed everything. I was so inspired afterwards that I really could hardly go to sleep. I had to make myself go to sleep because I knew I had to get up this morning and really draw that talk together. So, but that's another thing you can do, is just put yourself into a spiritual environment, especially something that's going to change your energy, no matter where your energy is. I think we can all use more light. Even if we're feeling the light, we can do more to bring that light and make it burn brighter. And if we're feeling no light, for sure you need to crawl if you have to to get to that place where others can help you and you can share in that light. We can watch, even if we don't have other people around us, we always have a choice within ourselves. We've been given free will. And Swami Kriyananda once said, your free will gives you two ways. You can go towards God, or you can go away from God. And he said, try going more towards God, because you'll feel better. And it's totally true. If you find things that feed your joy, that feed your calmness, that feed your peace, that feed your knowledge and your wisdom, those are all aspects of God. You're turning towards God when you're joyful. You're turning towards God when you're feeling peace and calmness. When you're giving service to other people and non-attached to that service so that you're just giving it out of the whatever love of God that you can feel, that's also purifying for your heart. And the more you purify your heart, the more you purify your feelings, then the calmer your mind can be. And the more that you're apt then to have God's presence flow through you in a more and more strong way. It just is like a river that starts coming. And like Jacques said, the only time that river will stop is when you get into fear, anger, all of the other negative states. And then it's like the hose. You know, the water's flowing through the hose, and then you crimp it. And then it's like, can't happen. But then you uncrimp it again. We just have to learn these things. We pick ourselves up and start again. And then we move toward the light. And then when we start seeing, oh, I think it's dark in here, we turn around and go the other way. And then we're facing toward the light again. Because many things that we really think we need, they really don't increase the light in us. Some of those things, alcohol, drugs, heavy foods, too many chocolate chip cookies. There's all kinds of things that can darken our consciousness. And we learn because once we get little glimpses of that light, we want more and more of it. Once we get little glimpses of that love and that energy, then it naturally leads us, and that's what self-realization is about. Inside ourselves, we know, and we can follow that light and increase that light. We're so lucky that we have 5 God-realized masters to follow, and we have countless saints that are written about in books and that are in this room to help us all move forward in that light, so that when God says, "Has you been redeemed?" you can say, "Certainly, Lord."
Thank you. You obviously told the story of Bernadette correctly because the lightning did not strike. I'd like to read what Prem-Shanti chose from Yogananda's Book of Prayer Poems, Whispers from Eternity. Make us transparent, that thy light may shine through us unimpeded. The sunbeams of thy love shine equally on all the members of thy cosmic family, whether prophet, hero, villain, tiny moth, or me. It is our own fault if we make ourselves opaque by our own mental and emotional dullness. Teach us to wipe away the dirt of error from the windows of our understanding. Our arms are weak for the task, owing to our long inner spiritual resistance. O Master Cleanser, lend power to our efforts that we may wipe away every last spot that clings to our minds, obscuring our transparency and preventing free entry to thy light. Oh, make us fully clean again, invisible in our egos, because transmitting only visions of thy beauty which lies within us.